$2 million for retirement. That's the number everybody's chasing, right? Hit that threshold and you are golden. Except here's the problem. I've sat across the table from families who had $2 million, sometimes more, and they were still terrified that they were going to run out of money. And they had every right to be worried, because the $2 million target, it's based on assumptions from 1994 that have absolutely nothing to do with your life today. I'm Tim Gardner, and I've been helping families navigate retirement planning for over 25 years. And in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you why the $2 million retirement myth is dangerous, the 3 hidden costs that destroy it, and most importantly, how you can figure out your real number so you can actually retire with confidence. Let's get to it. Here's the first thing that destroys the $2 million myth, and it's something that retirement calculators completely ignore. I call it the parent tax. Let me tell you about Susan. She retired at 63 with $2.1 million in her retirement. She'd done everything right. Maxed out her 401k for years, had a pension, felt great about her numbers. 18 months later, her mother needed memory care at $8,500 a month. Her father-in-law had a stroke and needed his entire first floor renovated so he could stay in his home. 2 years later, Susan had pulled an extra $180,000 from her retirement accounts she had never planned for. Now here's the part that should terrify you. That wasn't a 4% withdrawal rate anymore. That was nearly 9% in 1 year. And keep in mind, every dollar that she pulled out early, that's a dollar that's not compounding for the next 20 to 30 years. That $180,000 that Susan pulled out, over 25 years at say 6%, that would have grown to over $770,000. So Susan didn't just lose $180,000, she lost almost $750,000 in future retirement security. But she's not alone. I see this pattern over and over again with prospects in their late 50s and early 60s. You're not just funding your retirement. You're potentially funding 3 generations at once. Your mom needs a new roof. Your dad's hearing aids weren't covered by Medicaid. The assisted living facility raises its rates. Your adult daughter loses her job and needs help with her mortgage for 6 months. None of these show up when you plug numbers into a retirement calculator, but they absolutely show up in your bank account. So, where does this $2 million number even come from? And why does everyone treat it like the gospel? Well, it's based on something called the 4% rule. And the math is fairly simple. If you have $2 million and you withdraw 4% a year, that's $80,000 in income. Adjusted for inflation each year, and theoretically your money lasts 30 years. This rule was created in 1994 by a financial planner named William Bengen. He looked at historical returns for the markets and found that 4% was a safe number. But here's what's changed since 1994. In 1994, 42% of the private sector retirees had a traditional pension. Today, it's only 15%. So think about this. When Bengen created this rule, nearly half of all retirees had guaranteed income on top of their savings. Today, hey, you're almost entirely on your own. Healthcare costs have exploded. Long-term care wasn't the crisis that it is today. People weren't living into their 90s as frequently. And most importantly, Bengen never accounted for what you're dealing with right now. He assumed you were only funding your own retirement. 2 people, 1 household, predictable expenses. He didn't account for the sandwich generation. He didn't account for getting a phone call at 9 p.m. because your father fell and the emergency room bill is $4,000 after insurance. He didn't account for the son's student loans that he can't manage on his teacher's salary. He didn't account for the fact that you're the financial hub for everybody in your family. So, when you take that $2 million and start running it through the 4% rule, you're using a formula that's designed for a life that simply doesn't exist anymore. And that's why families who have $2 million are still running out of money. Now, if you're sitting there saying, okay, Tim, this is a lot more complicated than I thought, and how do I actually figure out my real number? I've got something for you. I've put together a complete retirement planning checklist that walks you through every question you need to answer before you retire. It covers your expenses, your parent exposure, your healthcare gaps, all of it. It's the same checklist I use with my clients, and you can download it for free. Link is down in the description. And hey, if you're finding this helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. It tells YouTube to share this with more families who need to hear it. All right, let's get back to the other two hidden costs. The parent tax is just the first hidden cost, and there are two more that will absolutely destroy that neat little 4% rule. Number two, it's the healthcare gap. Medicare doesn't cover everything, not even close. The average couple retiring today will spend about $315,000 in healthcare costs throughout retirement. And that's if everything goes relatively well. And that number doesn't include long-term care. If one of you needs nursing care for even 3 years, you're looking at $300,000 to $450,000 depending upon where you live. So now we're talking about potentially $600,000 to $750,000 in healthcare costs alone. That's about a third of your $2 million gone, just staying healthy and cared for. And here's what makes it even worse. You can't predict when these costs will hit. If they come early in your retirement while your portfolio is still building, the damage is exponentially worse than if they come later. Hidden cost number 3 is inflation reality. That 4% rule assumes that you're adjusting for inflation every year. But your personal inflation rate in retirement is probably higher than the national average. Why? Well, because you're spending more on healthcare, which inflates faster than everything else. You're spending more on services such as lawn care, home maintenance, and things that you used to do yourself. And if you're helping out adult children or aging parents, you're exposed to their inflation rate too. I've watched families who thought they were being conservative with a 3% inflation assumption get absolutely blindsided when their actual costs were rising at 5 to 6% per year. So let's do some math here for you. You start out with $2 million. You're planning to pull $80,000 out a year. But then you have an unexpected $30,000 parent emergency. Then a $15,000 in healthcare costs that didn't get covered. Your property taxes go up. Your homeowner's insurance doubles because of climate risk. Suddenly, you're not withdrawing $80,000. You're withdrawing $130,000. And you're doing it in a year when the market is down 15%? This is how $2 million becomes just not enough. So, if $2 million isn't the magic number, what is? Here's the truth. There is no universal number, but there's a formula. And it starts with getting brutally honest about these 3 things. First are your real expenses. Not what you think you're going to spend, not what some retirement calculator tells you you need, but what you actually spend. So what you need to do is sit down and track every dollar for 3 months. Then add 20% for the things that you forgot. And then add another buffer for your parent emergencies or your adult children that need help or medical surprises. For most of my clients in the sandwich generation, their actual retirement spending is 30 to 40% higher than what they had initially projected. Second, your parent exposure. This is the conversation nobody wants to have, but everybody needs to. What's your parents' financial situation like? Do they have long-term care insurance? What happens if they need memory care? Are your siblings going to help, or is this all going to fall on you? I'm not saying you need to have all the answers, but you need to know the questions. Because the difference between I think my parents are fine and I know exactly what the situation is could be $200,000 out of your retirement plan. Third, your withdrawal strategy. The 4% rule is just a starting point. It's not the finish line. What you actually need is a dynamic withdrawal strategy that adjusts based on market performance, your age, and your actual spending. In good years, you may be able to take 5%. In down years, you may have to tighten to 3% and live off cash reserves. You build in flexibility. Here's what it looks like in practice. Let's just say you determine your annual need is $100,000, not $80,000, because you're accounting for parent help and healthcare realities. Using that 4% rule, you'd need about $2.5 million, not $2 million. If you build in a cash buffer, let's say 2 years of expenses in a high-yield savings account, and you use a dynamic withdrawal strategy, you might be able to get by with $2.2 million. The key is you're not guessing. You're planning for reality, not a best-case scenario. Here's what I want you to remember. The $2 million retirement target isn't a lie because the math is wrong. It's a lie because it's based on a life that doesn't exist anymore. It's based on a retirement where you're only taking care of yourself and your spouse, where your healthcare costs are predictable, where your kids are financially independent, where your parents have their affairs in order. For most of you watching this, that's not your reality. Your reality is you're the financial hub for 3 generations. You're the person everyone calls when something goes wrong. You're managing your own future while you're also managing the present for your parents and your kids too. And this means your retirement number isn't $2 million. It might be more. It might be less if you plan strategically. But whatever it is, it needs to be based on your actual life, not some 1994 planning rule. The good news? Once you know your real number, you can actually plan for it. You can make your adjustments now. You can have those hard conversations. You can build in the buffers that you need. And you can stop lying awake at night wondering if $2 million is enough because you're actually going to know. So here's what I want you to do next. First, download the retirement planning checklist I mentioned. It's free, it's in the description, and it's going to walk you through every question that you need to answer to figure out your real retirement number. Go through it this week. Be honest with yourself about your numbers. Have the hard conversations with your spouse and maybe even your parents if you need to. Second, if you go through the checklist and realize, I need some help with this, or I just don't want to guess at something this important, go ahead, schedule a consultation with me. We'll sit down and we'll look at your specific situation and help you figure out exactly what your number is. Not the generic $2 million myth, but your actual number based on your actual life. The link to the schedule that is in the description as well. Because here's the thing, you spend 30 to 40 years building this nest egg. Don't let bad assumptions destroy the first 5 years of your retirement. Get the checklist, run the numbers, and if you need some help, I'm here. Thanks for watching. I'm Tim Gardner, and I will see you in the next video.